that people who cannot join right now can join the can see the meeting and all the questions later, because most of the questions overlap and their doubts can be cleared later too. Hmm. So for the newly joined guys, I just wanted to say that you can include your college name, semester, and where are you from, which college are you from, so we can get a better overview about your audience. All right, cybersecurity. Hello. Let me just shout out to the names. Hello, Dhamesh. Hello, Kushagra. Hello, Shambhavi. Hello, Priyanka. All right, so we have around 40 members now, I guess. All right, so hello, Pratik Bhaiya, are you there?
Yeah, hello
Uh,
everyone.
yeah, hello. So to make this session more interactive, let's just open our video cams. So it would be better interaction with the others.
Yeah,
I need a confirmation if I'm visible clearly in the chat. Am I visible, Pratik Bhaiya?
yes, you are visible, and don't call me Via. Actually, I am also a third year student.
Oh, so we are in the same year. Okay, so Pratik it is.
Yeah, you can call me Pratik.
All right. So first of all, congrats on getting selected in Google Summer of Code 2021.
Yeah,
It's a great achievement for you and all of our Brillis community. There is some noise in your mic. If you can like do something.
uh, is it fine now?
L- Speak again.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's fine now. That's correct. So let's just start with an introduction about yourself. Like, where are you from, and how have you started your open source journey? And then we'll start with the basic discussion as what is open source, how to approach companies, and all of that. So let's just start with the general introduction about you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Am I audible now? So, just let me know if my voice is clear.
A little bit noise is there. If you can reduce the volume of your mic, then it would be fine.
Yeah, so is it fine now?
Looks good.
Okay, I'll just increase a bit. So I'm Pratik, and I'm a third year student at SRM University, Chennai, and I started my open source journey since October 2019. That was Hacktoberfest, so I started with that, and I contributed to various open source organizations like Gatsby, LLVM compiler, and UNO organization, and LBRY, and I'm also contributing to Pigeon this GSOC period. So that's about me.
All right. So that's good. And I just wanted to ask, how are you preparing for your like placements along with your open source? Because many people do not start open source contribution because they have a feeling that they couldn't do DSA or do problem solving and all. So like, what do you do to manage all of those stuff?
Yeah, so for example, if you are in first or second year, so you have plenty of time. If you are in third year or fourth year, so you can just do it parallelly. And the open source thing doesn't require much hours, but you can try probably in the weekends and all. And that would be great if you get along with it and involved in this activities.
Hmm. I see. So I have seen the names and all of the branches. So most people are new here, like in the first year, second year, and all. So there is a possibility they do not know what exactly open source is and how is it development, how is it different from normal development. So can you give a brief about like what is open source and why is it so important?
Yeah, I have a presentation to show, so I'll
Yeah,
share
sure. Share
it.
screen. Hmm.
Are my slides visible to you?
Yes, it is visible.
So Google Summer of Code is many people ask me what is Google Summer of Code. So it is a open source mentorship program. It is not an exam. It is not a competition. and it is just an open source mentorship program. So what is the today's agenda? So I'll be coming to that. First is the introduction to open source and GSOC, and second is how to find an organization which you can contribute to, and how to contribute and communicate with the organization members, and fourth one is the common questions and FAQs. So let's begin with it. And I would like to ask you if someone wants to answer this question, what is open source from the audience? I won't take much time on this, but if someone wants to.
Sure. Just a brief explanation would be fine. It will also help you increasing your communication skills too.
Yeah, you can unmute your mic and speak also. That's fine. That's all right.
It's totally fine. We are just here to increase the level of interactivity. So if you can unmute your mic or show yourself, that would be good. Otherwise, explaining in the chat is also fine.
Can I speak?
Yeah, sure, Kunal.
Yeah, so like according to me, like open source is when something is free to edit and you can contribute to that basically. So like if we have an organization and we have a particular project, so we can either add a new feature to that, like it's free to use to everyone, according to me.
Yeah, that's a very good answer, and that's what I was about to say. So open source open source software is a software which people can modify according to them, and which is publicly visible, and they have license and not always free. It is not said that all open source softwares are free. And why the open source software is the main reason for that is the innovation, the security, and the freedom. That's about it. I have made slides until now only. So I'll be telling how to apply and how to get along with Google Sum of Code. So actually, the Google Sum of Code is a program started by Google in 2005 to increase the involvement of students in the open source community. So in this program, the students are mentored for 10 to 12 weeks under a mentor. So they get with the mentor and they work on project or a feature that they want to apply for. So what are the main reasons why you should apply? So you get a amazing learning experience. Second one is it's a kind of sense of achievement, because all over the world only 1200 to 1000 students are selected every summer. So it is kind of achievement, but it is not an exam. Don't take it as an exam that I've cracked that thing. So don't take it that way. And it can improve your developer skills. Yeah, this thing I've heard a lot from developers who are past GSOCers. So they told me that their skills are very much improved from this program. So this also builds your network. You get to know about the people from um, other field, other countries, and other companies. So while I was contributing to LLVM compiler, I actually got an opportunity to get to know the people from NVIDIA, Qualcomm, AMD, Google, Apple, and many more, which works on the embedded devices and use LLVM compiler heavily. So what open source can give you very vast expenditure for your network, so that you can expand your network and grow with it and spring your open source world. Yeah, this thing I've covered. And if you love to code, it is the program for you. And the stipend and the fame. So currently for India, we have stipend for $1,500. That is around 1,10,000 in Indian rupees. So along with that, you get the fame, which because very few people are selected in this program. So just to find that am I good enough for this program, so just you need to have some kind of skills which are needed, which are there in this docs. So first is the soft skills. So the way you interact with the people around the community matters most, and it uh, helps you. It helps others in judging you that how can you be a good member to the community and to the organizations. And obviously, technical stuff is also needed. So you need to have these things that you have need to have computer and some technical skills related to that organization. So
One question I want to ask here,
yeah,
that people who just start programming in their first and second year generally don't have much development experience. And if they see organizations like Forsythia and seeing about MLH and GSOC and all, so they get overwhelmed by the tech stack and all because they use something like Node.js and Flutter and Firebase, all of these things. So, how should one approach his development journey so that they can crack the Google Summer of Code and actually actually contribute something to an extent when they get selected?
yeah. So there are many organizations which use C++ and C. I know many people in the first year know only C. I have got messages from many people that I only know C. I want to contribute. So let me tell you that my organization only uses C and GTK. So that is not a big thing. C language is taught to the students from first year. So you are good to go if you know Python or C++ or C language. There are many orgs which uses this tech stack. Like LLVM compiler uses C++. My organizations use C and KD use C++. GNOME uses C, Vala Python and Rust. You can find the organization according to your tech stack, but you won't find the C++ thing alone. Actually, you have to learn some things apart from that. So, for example, I was contributing to LLVM, so I had to learn C. I already knew C++, but I had to learn about ISL library, that is interstate library. So, I was contributing to poly, which is polyhedral loop optimizer for HTML. So I'll be coming to those questions about JavaScript and all. Actually, I'm a non-stack developer, so I'll be coming to that. Don't worry.
It's fine.
Yeah,
All right.
so just you have to begin participating in the conversation and all. These things I will be covering. How to make in contact. I will be showing around 3 to 4 organizations how to get along with them. Uh, Using an organization, I'll be covering this. Okay, fine. So we'll be going to Summer of Code. So this is the organization's page on Google Summer of Code. If you can see it, is it visible?
Yes, yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So this is the organization list, and you can actually go through your tech stack. So if I know C++, I can get the organizations which use actually C++ in their uh, as a language. So you can find the tag C++, that is for data. So this also uses JavaScript. It doesn't matter, so that if you see C++ here, it doesn't imply that they are using only C++. They can use a combined tech stack, so you don't have to worry about it. So you can go through the organization if you like to visit this for data. So you just have to go into the organization and you can see what is it about. Uh, so for this thing, for the next year, if you are applying or preparing for, so that you can go to the organization page that I'm in for data, for example, and you have to find the how you can contact with them and how can you get along with it. So in this,
Uh,
yeah.
just one thing I want to ask here. Suppose if you take this organization named Perdata, its technologies mentioned are C, C++, HTML, JavaScript. and CSS. So the basic programming language C, C++, and basic front end. So suppose if someone does, some person doesn't know anything about front end, he just knows about C and C++. So would it be good to apply for this organization, or to get a complete overview about the whole tech stack would be a better option?
No, I don't think that you have to go through all the tech stack, because organizations generally have many projects. They don't have a single project with them. So generally, most of the organizations have plenty of projects which they can work on. So you can go through the idea list, and it will be taking you to the idea list, which is some of code. Yeah. So this year they had projects, and they also mentioned the tech stack regarding it. So this web UI cleanup project actually uses JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and some SVG experience they need. So the organizations give the ideas in form of this page. They have a page where they host this thing, and you can go through all the ideas which you want to work on. So for example, if you only know C, so this is the project you can look for profile for data usage and real time. So the languages used in this are C for backend and HTML5 for front end part. So this is how you can go through it. And this is just an example how you can go through the idea and discuss with the mentor or the organization team. So I will be covering here about the GNOME organization, because I was in GNOME for the last period.
There is a question from Karan Meena. If you want to, he said that how to join an organization for GSOC, as there are many fields, like many of the tech stack, many projects, many organizations. And he's a fresher, and he's an idea about web dev, Android, dev, blockchain, AI, and ML. So that is too much for a fresher. Like you already are in a really good path. Pratik Bhaiya, what would you suggest, Karan? So, which organization, how should he approach any organization for according to his tech stack of what he's learned?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So that part I'm explaining through GNOME Foundation. So I was in GNOME Foundation for a long time, so I'm pretty familiar with it. So you just have to find the organization name or the tech stack which you want to search about, and you can go into the search and write that name. So I am explaining currently about the GNOME Foundation. So go to the GNOME Foundation page, and you can see lots of tech stack here. So Rust, I don't know Rust. I don't. If there's a possibility that I don't know JavaScript, so still you can go to the ideas list if you can find a project relevant to you, and you can go to the project page. So every organization have a project page somewhere in their tech stack. So this you can go through it, and you can find the project which you are familiar with. So this is Rust, so I won't be touching it. I'll be ignoring this project because this project is Rust based on Rust, and this is based on C, glib. I can go with this. I can go with this if I know C, and if I know Rust, I can go with this. So there are many kind of projects which are listed over here. You can go to the project ideas, and you can get to know about it. So actually, that's it. If you want to know about projects and all.
All right.
Yeah.
So we got the basic idea about like what is open source, how should one apply it, and what are the projects organizations can be targeted using your tech stack. Now I just want to ask that if someone is from a DSA background or a CP background, he didn't do much development in his college days, so would it be a good idea to switch to open source instead of doing competitive programming? And if someone was to do both, then how much time should he give to competitive programming and his development journey in open source?
So right now I'm not doing much DSA. Actually, I've started the DSA from January, and I'm giving some time in DSA and as well as in open source as well. So if you get a organization which suits your tech stack, so basically you can, yeah, you are good to go with that. And for example, if I know C, so but I don't know glib. So glib I have to learn from my end. And for example, if I know C and some kind of physics is required here, so I have to fill this. Uh,
Hmm.
I have to know this tech stack before applying. So you get a 1 year. You have a 1 year to apply here, and you can uh, learn a lot of things from in this 1 year, and you can just polish your skills and work on it. So these are the project ideas you can go through it. So for example, if I want to go to a organization for like if I'm interested in uh, organization named Postgres. So but Postgres uses Perl, I think. So I can go through Postgres, and they use Perl basically. I mean, majority of their tech stack is based on Perl. So you can learn Perl because you have 1 year. It depends on you completely. If you want to learn this technology, if you want to go with the technology, new technology, or you want to go with a tech stack which you already know. So in case of mine, I went with the tech stack which I already knew, that is C language and GTK. So this is how you can choose an organization. And for example, if you are new to organization known, so they have a guide for you, and you can go through it. So first one is the choose a project. They have lots of project. Second is how to build it locally, and third is solve a task and submit. So I'll go through this. So first thing you have to do is that you have to join the chat, or you can join their mailing list or any IRC they use. Many organizations use Zulip, many organizations use Slack, some use Matrix, some use email list, some use Discourse, and this way you can go through it. So I'm already in this Matrix chat. If you can see this, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Just yeah, yeah, I can see it. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so you can join this chat. It looks like this. So this is the GNOME community. You can go through all the chats and all the projects are listed here. So if you want to work on GTK, you can go into the GTK channel. If you want to work on Nautilus, that is the file manager for GNOME organizations and the Linux basically. So this is it. You can see file. This is Nautilus. And if you want to work on say libhanding, so you can go into the chat, and I'll be explaining how to interact with them. This is the first step you have to join. So second is the step in which you have to go to the projects and which you want to work on. For example, I like this project files more, so I went through this, and is my voice not audible?
No, no, your voice is clear. Ambrish, can you just increase your speaker volume? The voice is clear from our side.
So no problem. If you want to go through this project, you can select it. Just select it. So they have a brief description how this thing works and how you can contribute to it. So this is just an introduction, and they will guiding you that you can join the Nautilus chat in the this one. So I have this. I've joined this Nautilus, and I can communicate with the community here. So the code link is also given here. You can go through the code and you can contribute to it. I'll be showing how to contribute also. That's it. If you are interested in Java, if you are interested in Python, you can go over to the know music, you can contribute in the Python. If you know only Vala, Vala is different language, so you can go with it. So this is how you can choose a project and um, contribute into it. So second part comes is that if after choosing a project, how to build that project. So you have to build the project locally into your system. So this thing you have to see the documentation of your organization, and so in this note specifically, they have suggested that you have to download the builder, that is app, from the Flatpak. Flatpak is like a app app market, like just like a Google Play Store. You can get some apps and download them builder from here. So builder is generally, I'll show you how builder works. So this is the builder app, and you can find the project of your choice. So mine was Nautilus, so I've already uh, cloned it in my own desktop. So you can build it, and they have different parts and methods to build that thing. Yeah, I would suggest you to use Linux uh, in most of the cases, because many organizations work on Linux and they are more developer friendly, and you can learn a lot from Linux. And last thing comes is the submit your patches, submit your contributions to the open source, and this is how you can go through it. So after selecting organization, you can go to the, you can talk to the community, and you can get along with it. Um, if you are interested in knowing all of this, how the organization works, you have to just be in a, what you can say, observation period for some time, and you can like get a familiarity with it. I think I'm boring you, so this is the case. So if you have any questions, so I'll be answering that.
So you guys can just put your questions in the chat box, or even if you can unmute it and just discuss with us directly, so it would be better. So if you have any question, just ask. So Pratik, one thing I want to ask, that if someone has not applied for GStock but they want to contribute to open source, so is there any way so they can contribute to organizations they want to apply in future as well before like getting selected?
Yeah, actually, you have 1 year for GSOC from now on, so you can start contributing. You can join the community. You can start contributing, and you can build a project on your own and start fixing the issues on your own. This is how you can get along with the organization. So some of my friends who are interested in contributing to TensorFlow, so they joined the TensorFlow 1 year back, and they contributed, and then they are selected for TensorFlow. So they were more interested in the machine learning part. I'm not a ML engineer, so I'm not interested in that. So I never went there. So you can select any organization of your choice, of your tech stack. If you are interested in ML, you can go with the organization which take ML. And if you are interested in cloud, so we have different kinds of categories here. We have cloud. If you are interested in databases, you can go to this. If you are interested in VR or graphics, operating system, programming languages, uh, science and medicine, there are many kinds of categories. You can go to it, and you can select the organizations according to tech stack.
One thing is there, that if some person wants to start as open source journey, they are not very confident about their skills. So suppose we take an example of web development or any programming language. So what would be the level of his web development or programming language skills, so that he can start applying in these programs?
Yeah, for example, if you are not familiar with the tech stack of or you are not confident in it, for example, if you know React but not very much you are expert in, so you can go to the organization of your choice which uses React, and you can discuss with the team that hey, I want to contribute to this project, but actually I need some kind of resources from your side, so would you be able to provide that? So most of the people are here to help you, and they'll be providing you the resources which you want to find it out. So whenever if you want to join a organization, so first 2 week or 1 month should be given to see how the organization works. So for example, in this organization NOM, I'll be taking this example. So you have to find the people who are the maintainers. Actually, you don't have to be scared of the people who are new. Actually, you can see how many people are leaving and joining. So see, this is the people who have joined, and many people leave and join every day. So for example, if I go into gnome hackers, so I know few people from gnome. So for example, this guy Paco is from camera live camera, and this is a GSOC student, and this is me, and I know this guy. This guy is a maintainer as well. This is the gnome GSOC admin tip, and that's how you will know people, how people are working in, and you can get along with it. So that's all from my side. If you have any questions, you can.
If you have any question, you can put in the chat box. Let me just take some questions which were there before. So, like Albela Career has asked that how big should a contribution be? Like, what would be the size of your code in your pull request, and how much big of a bug you have to aim to get into in that organization that you have applied.
For example, if you are aiming for an organization, so you can start with contributing to I mean, the newcomers tag, and the newcomers issues are there in the organization. For example,
I have heard that if you take the repository of any organizations of GitHub, there is a tag named as good first issues, which is good for beginners, so they can start contributing in it.
Yeah, that's what I was telling.
All right. That's it. So Karan has asked again, how long one should be contributing in organization to be selected as a GSOC participant? Like, what is the duration?
So I would suggest that the better or the more early you will join organization, the more possibility you will get into, I mean, getting accepted into GSOC. So these issues on GNOME comes with labels, different kind of labels. So this is these are the labels. This generally use newcomers. So these are the newcomers issue. You can generally go through it, and you can find it. They are generally easy, and you can get along with it. So these are the issues which you can find and contribute to. And you can also go start with the docs thing. There are many requirements, and very like docs is a necessity for us to run an organization. You can contribute in form of translator. You can translate some kind of things, and don't just spam the issues with small kind of contributions, like if you are changing s from in the last word, last character. So don't do that. Just if you are really wanted to contribute, if you really want to contribute, just start with the translation. If you are interested in docs, that can help you in getting familiar with the organization and with the open source thing.
All right. One thing I want to ask here, that suppose you take GSOC as all of the coding thing, right? But if some person wants to aim for a system design role, or not implementing the code and just designing the whole thing, so is there any possibility they can apply it to the organization as well for designing some system and all?
Yeah, I have seen some kind of projects, but they are very rare to find because these kind of projects many people hunt for, and there are some kind of projects which needs UX to be UX to be improved, and you can contribute to the UX part. You can improve the architecture, and there are many organizations which work on this.
Hmm.
Uh, it depends on the project idea every year. So project idea is decided by the mentor itself. So the mentors and the community decides how many how many projects they'll be taking this year. So it is purely dependent on the mentor and organization.
All right. There is a question from Priyanka. She says that is it important to work with organization before the GSOC starts?
Yeah,
Like we have discussed before.
mhm. Yeah, it is important, and it is very like you can say advantage to you
Crucial.
if
Right.
sorry.
Hmm. No, nothing else.
Yeah,
Just
so
read it.
I was talking about that. It's nice if you are contributing to open source from before the GSOC, and if you are not contributing, if you are too late for joining the GSOC or applying there, you can list your projects which are similar to that. So this way you can work, you can get selected. Yeah.
All right. So next question is from Kushagra. He says that does single organization gives continuous opportunities so that I get a good recognition in that organization?
Yes, for example, if you are confident about an organization, that since many organizations are selected since the beginning, so there are some kind of organizations which are very old. For example, GNOME is very old. This RTMS is very old, and you can go to the organizations which are very old. So there is more possibility that they get selected in the GSOC, and you can get in the, I mean, in the top contributors of that organizations.
Hmm. All right. So the last question is from Karan. He says that we have many options available as a fresher to start with, and that's one when gets confused. Which tech stack should we choose? And it goes all randomly. So any suggestion in this? So there is a thing that who just start exploring multiple things, such as people do a little of web development, some Android development, and do blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all of these things. So which domain he should aim first? While preparing for GSOC and applying, looking for an organization.
For example, I will give you two options. First, go with the tech stack you know. So
Mm.
go with the tech stack and search on the search page, Google Son of Code organization page, and you can find the organization which is suitable with your tech stack. And second option is that if you are interested in something and you are interested in contributing to that, and you don't know anything about it, so you can learn about it. So for example, if I'll take VLC, video line notice. If you are a fan of a video LAN VLC player, so you can learn the things which are there in the tech stack. You can discuss with the mentors that I want to work here and I want to contribute in this, and they would be purely helping you, and they would be supporting you in this.
Hmm. All right. So, guys, if you have any more questions, you can just ask in the chat. Otherwise, Pratik, we will continue. There is a question from Yash. He says that can we apply on multiple organizations, or we should focus on only one from the start?
Uh, yeah, in my case, I was in different many organizations, and I was
Hmm.
contributing to them. And you can choose one organization and keep one as backup. So I would suggest one organization and plus one as a backup. So in case if your organization doesn't get selected, so you have a backup plan so that you can go with it. For example, it happened to me that I was contributing to a project named Nautilus, that is file manager you can see over here. So my project was not there in the org list, so it was not in the GSOC page this year. So that was based on C and GTK. So I was finding the organizations which were using GTK. For example, these are the organizations which use GTK. So I finally found Pigeon as my organization, and I started contributing to it because I was very interested in contributing to this, and I was contributing to Files Manager, that is GNOME, made by GNOME, but it was not there in the list, so you cannot do anything about it. You have to just switch the organization in the last thing. And about the proposal thing, you can make 3 proposal in any org, in any idea, and different ideas you can choose, and you can make proposal in that. That's it.
There is a question from Sheetal Alwani. She says that can you give a brief info? Can you give a brief about how your proposal looked like?
Yeah, I'll be sharing my proposal in the last 5 minutes, and I'll be talking about that as well. So this
Alright.
is what this thing looks like. And one more thing I want to clear here for the people, that if you want to work on GNOME, basically, if you are interested in GNOME organization, so there are many projects listed over here. So I know many people in the brainless community know C and C++. So they would be targeting these kind of projects. So for example, if all the brainless community targets on this project, so GSOC has a criteria that only one student can work on only single project. So as you can see, this project can be only one student can get selected for this project. So many people would ignore these projects and these projects, and they would be applying for that. And in the end, only the best would be selected, the best candidate. It is very rare that a person can more than one person can get selected for one idea. It depends on the organization. It is 1 in 200 chance that your project would be selected that like that, and it is very rare. So you can go through the opportunities, you can go through the project ideas, and you can go how much kind of competition you have in that idea, and that's how you can work on it. So I'll tell you about my story, and I was contributing to LLVM compiler, and that was a poly project actually. So I was contributing, I was alone in that, I was contributing alone. Just 10 days before the application period, one guy came, and he was doing a lot of research from many years on this compiler. So it was very difficult for me to compete with that guy. And since I'm a third year student, I don't have much chances to apply next year. I don't know about next year. So this was kind of last chance for me. So I just cut off from that organization because it was not possible for me to compete with that guy. He was solving issues in very quickly. He was solving the issues in hours, which takes me days to complete. So I just cut off from that organization, and I was looking for the organizations which was using the same tech stack, and so that I can join them. So I joined in Pigeon in the last thing. So that's how you should this strategy you should apply, and you should work with.
All right. All right.
Mhm.
So the next question is from Mana. She says that she or he says that how much time does this demand on regular basis if you are doing CP and want to start contributing?
So so for example, if you are contributing to if you want to contribute to an organization, so just for the first few weeks, just look at the organizations, how they work, how the things work actually, and you can communicate with them, and you can work on the issues. For example, if you are interested in like C project or JavaScript, so you can find the organizations related to it and you can contribute. One more thing I would like to say is that since January I started working on DSA and competitive programming more. So I was continuously doing 100 days of code in C++ and with data structures. So I never left that part since January to April. I mean, doing competitive coding, and I was also contributing to open source. So just maintain 2-3 hours for this open source journey. I won't suggest that you should give your whole day in this. Just 2-3 hours in a day, you can see how what's happening in the community, which bugs you can solve, and if you need any help with the bug solving, you can always contact the mentors that, hey, I'm solving this bug, and could you please help me? And one more thing is that I won't suggest you to call any mentor a sir, because generally in Indian community we have like we call the mentors as sir. So don't call that as sir, and don't. That's not a good thing. You should call them by their name. So I think Sagar is also here. If he wants to speak something about this, Sagar
Yeah,
bro.
sure, sure. Hello, Saga.
Hey, hi guys.
Hmm.
Actually, I'm not at home, so you will hear some background noise from my side. So, do you have any question? I'm mentoring under for the GSOC and GSOT. So,
Hmm.
let me know if you have any specific questions for me.
Hmm. All right, we'll take it from the chart. Like Sagar is mentor in this GSOC 21.
Yeah,
So, as a developer, as a contributor, if you have any questions like how to interact with mentors and how to discuss project with with your project mentors, so you can drop your questions. One thing I want to ask Pratik and Sagar both is that when you do CP and when you do your open source work, so do they complement each other? Like your knowledge in CP, your logic building applies to solving problems in GSOC, and same as the other. Like you fix a bug in your project, so it may complement your thinking skills in a C, so you can do better in the competitive programming too. So does that happens, or these two are two very different domains from each other?
yeah, right. As a mentor, I don't see the code shape or code process star or the competitive programming, how good you are at.
Hmm.
So I'm particularly interested in how you can solve the issues for particular projects. So these are two completely different tracks, and
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you are good in CP, but if you are good at particular programming language which is being used by the that particular project, then yeah, that's fine.
Hmm. All right. So as a contributor, Pratik, does this happens to you? Like,
Yeah, for example, if you are a student and you are having some experience in C++, so for me, talking about me, I'm a Munstack developer, but I was applying to an org which was using C and C++. So I don't have any projects in C++ and C actually. So what I did is, so I was doing 100 days of code in C++. I attached that thing with my proposal. So my mentor actually appreciated it that I was consistent enough to work in the 100 days of code. So that was kind of advantage for me, and this also shows that I'm experienced in C++ and C language. So you can add like that.
hmm. All right. There is a question from Karan. He asked that how to approach a mentor, like if you are getting some problem with a particular tech stack in which you are contributing in that and want to quit, like changing your project and contributing to some other issue in the same project. So how should he ask his mentor in a formal way?
Yeah. So for example, I'll share my screen. I had a problem with Nautilus file manager, so I actually talked to the mentor. Just give me- where is it? So I was facing some issues with my contribution. This is my previous contribution, which is still under review. So I talked with the mentor that is there any kind of thing which you have commented in that. So he was explaining me that you should do this and you should rebase your code and that's how you should work. And the mentor is very helpful in open source organization, and they will help you at every point. So you can see that he has attached a screenshot for me, and he has also steps. He also mentioned some steps which I should follow, and so that I can fix that issue. So basically, you can ask for help from anybody in that organization, in that channel. Many people would be happy to help you, and they would be like they would be yeah, happy to help you. That's it.
Hmm. All right. So I just want to ask a small question that selection of mentor is the same as selection of contributors. Like, is there any requirement of mentors being any working professionals in any organizations, or some students can also be applied to GSOC mentor or not?
I think Sagar can answer to this
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, sure. But before that, what Pratik said to earlier question. So I prefer my student to reach out directly to me. So I'll share some small incident from this GSOC. So one of my student was having some problem related to COVID and his family problems. So he was lacking some motivation. So we we as a mentor we don't expect to solve the technical problems only, but we try to keep the environment very friendly. So if you have any problems related to take or non-take, we set up directly calls with them, or try to talk to students to keep them motivated as much as possible. So as you said, as Pratik said, it's like very friendly environment in open source. You can directly talk to your mentors. They will happy to guide you for any issues. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, for the mentor, um, each organization has their different criteria to select the mentors. There are some organization expect you to have like open source background, like good contribution. And there is no such requirement like you should be working professional only. So as
Hmm.
one student can apply, but they need to like show that they are capable of doing mentoring.
Hmm. All right. There is a question from Kushagra. He says that if you are good at CP but not much experience with any library that has to be used. So what is to be done then?
I think most of the projects are not based on that one language. You have to learn some kind of frameworks and libraries from your end.
Hmm.
And if you are able to find some projects if that uses only C or C++ or your tech stack, that would be good. If they require some kind of extra effort, so you should learn that, I would suggest.
Hmm. All right. Cool.
Yeah, right.
So yeah. So
Sorry,
let's
guys.
just.
So I have one point here. Like
It's okay.
even all the organizations support student. If you are not good at particular technology, they will share some of the recordings, previous recordings, and resources to learn that technology which they are using, or they will arrange the sessions from previous GSOC students or other contributors for you. So it is just you need to step up into community and share whatever help you needed, and you will get it. But you need to speak for yourself.
Yes, I agree with Sagar, bro. And actually, I mentioned this as well. You need to ask the mentors about the resources. So they
Hmm.
would be giving you the resources that they like. So, for example, if you don't know GTK, so they would be giving you something about GTK. But you have to make some efforts. You won't find most majority of the projects are not based on C only. They use some kind of different things. So you have to learn that, I would
Hmm.
suggest.
All right. So I just want to ask one thing that how is GSOC different from other programs like Microsoft Imagine Cup, MLH, and all of these others like we see on LinkedIn and all?
For example, if you will see the projects for the programs which are like Gulfscript Summer of Code, Kharagpur Summer of Code, and Student
Hmm.
Code and Hack and Codes. which I participated. Some of them are participated in the last year.
Mm. Yes.
So they have projects which are very small. Those projects are not used by many people. I would say hardly 100 or 200 people, at the majority, at the most. So that is good to start with. It is good for beginners to start with, but you have to level up your skills. So you have to join some organizations which actually deals with large number of people, and you get a more experienced people in the organizations. For example, in the Gulfscript Summer of Code, Kharagpur Summer of Code, mostly the students are mentors. But in real these organizations, you can find the people who are experienced for 20, 30, 50. No, not 50. I mean, just having some kind of experience more than these people have. So I would uh, more suggest you that you should go with these kind of organizations, even if you are not selected. And you can participate in Linux mentorship program. You can
Mm.
participate in MLH fellowship. You can participate in GSOC. You can participate in outreach, for it is majority for girls and the colored people. Uh, that's how you can learn a lot from the organizations, and you can work along with it.
Mhm. All right.
Yeah, right. For the GSOC, MLH, Outreach, the projects are very large scale projects, and they are being used by millions of people. Even if you contribute a single line of code, that will get used by like so many people. So it's very good to contribute for such projects. But um, say, saying that, like, you can try for the Gulfscript Summer of Code or Kharagpur Summer of Code. It will You will get some idea how open source works at not a very large scale, but it's good to have done some contribution from those programs. So you will understand how communities works, how mentorships works, how to communicate in community. So that's also good
Mhm.
point. And take all those skills from small programs, and then you can jump to the GSOC and big organizations.
Yes,
Mhm.
I really agree with this, and these kinds of programs have really helped me getting selected in this GSOC.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So even contribution to the such programs like Script Summer of Code, and outside these programs as well. So even mentors look for how much you contribute outside their projects. So it's good to go through such programs. You will keep on contributing to small projects, and you can add those links, contribution link to your proposal. So while comparing the proposal with a similar kind of skill student, you will maybe get some age or other students. So yeah, it's good to have participation in those programs.
Uh,
Mhm.
One
All
thing
right.
I would like to add here is that GSOC doesn't look for your uh, college name. Anybody can apply if you are a student. They don't look for a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 college. So this is a very good opportunity for you to get selected, because every year around 1200 people are selected from all over the world. So you get a kind of experience and exposure to different kind of things, and you can work on your technology which you are interested in. And if you
Yeah,
want, Mhm.
true. That's true. Even in my organization, one of student has this petroleum or petrochemical background, and uh, while students from the computer and IT branches were not selected, but because of his active contribution and various skills, he got the chance to work in our organization. So we
uh,
don't look for your branches, your colleges, and
Mhm.
uh, your skills and contribution, all that is matter.
yeah, one of the person in my community or in my organization was from NIT 3G. So that is number one NIT, I think. So he was not selected for the GSOC from my org because we had only two slots. And one more thing is that about slot is that the Google appoints the slots, the number of slots, and the organizations have to follow them. If they are not getting more slots and they have more ideas, so they have to cut down the students and then they have to select them. And one more thing is that my organization is very old organization. They have been participating in GSOC since 2005. So they could have got more than four or five slots, but they only got two because didn't have much amount of mentors. We only had two mentors, and those two mentors can only take two students. So this is how we got a lot of competition in our organization. So these are also the factors which can affect at the last moment. So I was not knowing that our organization would be getting only two slots because there were no mentors, and the organization could not do anything about that as well because they can't force someone to mentor for GSOC because GSOC is a voluntary thing for them. So this is the problem which I face and the organizations people face in my organization.
All right. So we are almost like 1 hour into the session. So we'll just start with our summary part, like what we have started, what we have discussed, people who joined late. And if someone has any questions, they can drop in the chat as soon as possible, and we'll just wind up the session with the summary.
So I'll be sharing my proposal as well here so that you
Yes.
can get an idea how to work with it and how to just discuss with the, yeah, so get an idea. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is my screen visible to you?
Yes, it is visible.
So I would suggest you to just make the front page as like Google Summer of Code and write your project idea and organization name. It looks kind of better if you do so. So this is the front page of mine, and the second page should be your personal details. It is not compulsory that you have to follow this kind of things. You can include that since I have included this my personal details in the second page. You can include that in the last. It depends on you actually. So, but you have to include it. Generally, has a good impact on your proposal. So I have included this and I've mentioned my social skills, social links. Sorry. So these are my social links. So my mentor is not active on LinkedIn. He is from US, so he's not on GitHub, but he is on Twitter. So I followed him, and I followed him. I used to talk to him about Twitter as well. So he followed me on Twitter. So actually, you get a bonding with the mentor that he also trusts you that you are capable and your skills are capable. So you can add your GitHub, your LinkedIn, so that they can trust you that you are a good student and you are credibility and you can maintain the credibility. So I have mentioned my education that I belong to SRM, and then I have written the abstract. So in abstract part, you can write about the organization, what they do, and this is how it works. And you can then provide the technical description of your project which you have selected. So since my organization, my project was to build an system for the my organization, so I selected this. So you have to give the technical description, what is the idea about, what are the project goals. You have to justify it. And second part comes to the implementation part, how you are going to implement it. So for implementation part, you can discuss with the mentors that, hey, XYZ, I have this idea. So is it good to go with this idea, or would you suggest me something else? So they would be surely helping you with this idea and implementation. If you are doing your research well from your side, don't ask very naive questions from them, very easy question which you can Google. So they would be getting more angry on you. I mean, they won't get angry, but they would think that this guy is not doing efforts from his side. So why would I help you? So if you are doing some efforts from your side, and if you can show that, hey, I'm not able to do this. I searched in on internet, but I'm still confused. So could you help me? So in that way, the mentor would help you in that, and they would be more happy to solve your issues. So then I explained the workflow, how the things will work in my assistant. So this is particularly about my actually my project. So you can add some mock-ups to that so that you can I mean get more visual familiarity to the mentor. And I have made a design of that assistant, how it would look like. But this is a demo, so the final thing may not look like this. This is just a demo. So I've listed some extra goals because I've listed extra goal because if I'm able to do the project on time, so I would be having some more time for contribution. So I have listed some kind of extra goals which you can do if you finish the project beforehand. And this comes the timeline. So you have to find you have to go to the timeline. So this is the community bonding period which I'm having right now, and you can uh, fix and you can discuss this about the timeline with your mentors, and they would be guiding you about this, that you should be making changes in this or this part or that part. So this should be discussed with the mentor, how you want to work with it. And this comes the post GSOC period. So I think this line should be there, and because many organizations want you to be a long-term contributor, they don't want you to be just completing GSOC and leaving them. They want that the person should be contribute to the organization for a long time. So I've justified that I would be making contribution, and I would be helping the organization in volunteering and fixing some documentation from my side. And I would be happy to help and guide the newcomers in future. So I've mentioned this side. And since I was new to this organization, I recently shifted it from the GNOME. So I was not able to make contribution more into the application before the application period. Yes, I did the contribution due after the application period, which was the result time actually. So I did more contribution, but I was not able to uh, add them this here. So I've just written that I'm planning to do more contribution during the community farming period. So they have accepted this thing, and I mentioned some kind of my other open source or previous contribution. So I was a contributor at Gatsby, LLVM compiler. So I've mentioned that link as well, and I've mentioned my contribution from GNOME, which was on Nautilus. So you can mention it about that. And this comes the relevant project about that. So if the mentor is giving you a project, so you should know something about it. So I made my project is mainly based on GTK and C. So I was some participating. I was practicing some kind of projects from my side, and I was pushing them on GitHub. So I just make sure to add this link. And my previous past experience was that I was an open source fellow at Hack Illinois. That helped me in contributing to LLVM compiler, and I was also a top contributor to there. So that helped me in selection. And I was a participant at GulfScript Summer of Code, and I mentored student at Google. Student coding. Sorry. So that was my previous experience. That helped me, I think, in getting selected. So you can start looking for some kind of programs which can help you in the long run, and which can help you in getting selected and getting familiar with the open source part. And some kind of voluntary experience I've also mentioned here, that I was working as a volunteer with Google Crowdsource. So I had done this much kind of contribution, and I was a guest speaker at GDG Cloud Chennai. I also mentioned that. So this depends on you actually. If you have, it's okay to mention. If you don't have, it's nothing wrong in mentioning it. And this point is again important from my side, that why organizations should select you. So I explained that I'm a contributor since 2019. I've been contributing to many organizations, that Gatsby, Uno platform, LLVM compiler, and so on. I was also in the maintainer team at Gatsby, but they in the end they made the contributors core contributors as the maintainer. after August 2020. So I was a maintainer in this period, so that helped me in maintaining the projects, open source projects. And I also mentioned some things like I was a mentor at these hackathons, so that helped me. And one thing I would like to say is that just add some kind of proofs along with your application so that they can have a look at it. If you'll add some links, I don't think people would actually join that. And if you are, adding some photos that would have purely, have a great impact on that. So
Hmm.
I was a top contributor at Hacklearner's open source fellowship, so I just added a proof with that, so that you can see my name in the outstanding contributors list. And I think I and one more guy was only from India in this fellowship, and so this was a good fellowship in which only 100 people were participating. And I also did 100 of code to just show that I am capable of doing C and C++. So you can add any kind of your ratings or your contest experience with this, so that you can the mentor can know that you are capable of doing the project in C and C++. So I'm not having much nice ratings on other platforms, so I just added this part. And I was doing 100 days of code and I was tweeting about it, so I just make sure to add it. That's all about my side, and I just mentioned the motivation. So there was a person called Anirudh, uh, that he was a GSoccer from 2011. So I met him at a uh, hack, I mean, Hacktoberfest meetup at Chennai. So he guided me in open source and he helped me in doing so. So I mentioned his name and how he helped me, and that was my contribution and my motivation behind this open source and GSOC. So you have to just mention your commitments if you are doing any internship. So I was not opting any internship from my side. So you can just mention that so that mentor can get a brief understanding from your side that you are able to give the amount of hours that are required. So that's about my this
Hmm.
proposal
All
from
right.
my side. Yeah.
One thing I want to say that since you said that you started your open source journey from 2019, and I have seen your proposal. You did many kind of contributions and also mentored in many hackathons and all. So, what
Yeah.
was your daily routine, and how did you approach in learning tech stacks, and how did you divide your time in between learning new things and working for an organization in bugs?
For example, if you are interested in contributing any to any org, so you should get familiar with it. As I've already said, you should observe in the first 2 weeks that how organization work, who are the main people, who are the core contributor, and then you should start contributing. You should start taking help from them. They are ready to help you, but I think they are more working professionals, so they won't be having much time to help you at every moment, but they would try as much as they would be it would be possible from their side. And it may happen that you may get a delay in getting a response from their side, but you should not think that they are ignoring you. It is not like that. You should just wait for that. You should keep patience. And one more thing is that you should start contributing from now on. The early you start, the better you will get in the last selection phase. So the committee will surely take your name in the last selection round. If there are very few slots given to them by the Google, so I think you will have a good possibility of getting selected if you are contributing from now or early stage. So I started my contribution. I was serious about open source, no, about GSOC from February when I started my open source fellowship. So I got an idea how big things works, how big projects works, and I was able to build the projects on my local machine actually with the help of Mentor, and I was able to make some contributions. And one more thing, in the January, I got an internship. They were paying me 10,000 per month, but I just dropped out from that internship because they were using PHP and Ionic, which is not common these days, and I didn't like that the idea of their company, so I just dropped off and I thought of doing open source contribution, and I started the 100 days of code from that time, and so it helped me a lot in uh, programming and getting along with the open source, and
Mhm.
that's it.
All right, that's good. So we'll just take some questions if you have any in the chat. Most of them were cleared along the way, and we'll wind up our session with an ending note, asking Pratik Bhaiya to give a 1 year roadmap, not like a roadmap or something. Those things are very trendy but not helpful at all. One thing I want to ask that how to maintain consistency while working in development. Like if someone is from a DSA background, solving problems daily would be an easier task for them instead of contributing to some organization daily and just brainstorming in bugs daily. So how one should develop his consistency so that he can increase his chances in getting selected in these programs.
I would say just constantly hunt for the bugs and issues, and whatever, keep helping the other people in the way you want to do it. So in my org, there was a guy from NIT Trichy, I've already mentioned. So while proposal reviewing period, I helped him in reviewing his proposal. So I suggested him something, though he was my competitor, but I helped him making his proposal better. So you should always have a helping nature, and you should constantly hunt for the bugs and how much you can solve from your end, and take the help from the community as well. They already know how to solve these issues, and the mentor would be uh, mainly helpful in, I mean, solving these issues. Uh, that's it.
Hmm.
If you have any points, Saga, bro, to add in this.
Hmm. Yes, sir. Sure. Saga, sir, sure.
Can you please repeat?
I just wanted to ask one thing that if someone is from DSA background or doing CP regularly, solving problems regularly, but he wants to start his open source journey, like it is really different from doing CP and all, contributing to bugs, solving issues in the development environment, asking for problems in the code and all. So how one should maintain consistency is in these things and do the problems and try to solve this, try to brainstorm about this bugs in on a daily basis.
Yeah, sure. Like for the CP guys, they will have background from the C, CPP or the Python mainly. So they can choose the organization who has written the code.
Hmm.
The organization has projects on those particular language. Or there are two ways. Either you can go for your best, or you can try learn the things new and solve the issues. But about the consistency, you can group together with your friends and brainstorm and try to solve the issues together. So we have seen this particular approach from our students while they were contributing to GSOC, and most of them were very active contributors, and they used to brainstorm and come with a good solution. So it might be the case that all of those don't know the solution, but when you learn different things, and when you get the different perspective from each of your colleague or from collaborator, so you'll maybe come with some solution, and then you can suggest to the mentors if it is good or not. Then they can give best solution to you. But it's like you need to do some research first and then go to the mentors. And about the consistency, it's like your interest. W- First, for the first few weeks, you will not understand what is going in the community. But as much as you are staying back in the community, you will understand the things. You will try to help the students, and while helping others, you will get to learn so many things. And like if you attend the regular meetings, and if you go through previous recordings, where they explain projects and all the structure and everything. You'll get most of the ideas. For the if the technology is new, you can go through particular like Udemy tutorial or the YouTube videos or something, uh, and that from there you can start. But once you get the language idea, like if the project is written in Flutter, at least you will learn the basic syntaxes. You can go through the entire repo, and while going through the repo, you will understand what is missing, where you can improve, and you will slow by slow you will get to learn about entire code base. So it's not like you'll get everything or learn everything about the project in 1 or 2 week. It's a longer process. As much as you are staying with the community, you will learn new things. Yeah.
All right, that's great. So uh, it's I guess 8:22. We have around 1.5 hour session. So if anyone has any questions, they can just drop it, and Pratik will just do the summary of this session, and we'll end our session. And Brilis, I mean Arvind, I just want to ask one thing, to drop links of the social of Pratik, Bihar, Sagar, and Brilis community. So if anyone has any question further this session, they can directly ask in the group or in personal chat and all.
One more thing I want to state here, that not every organization is on GitHub. So my organization, Pigeon, is working on Mercurial, so they don't work on Git. So not every organization is on GitHub. So generally people think that every organization is on GitHub. Some uses SVN, some uses Git, some uses Mercurial as well. So as I already shown about GNOME, so they are on GitLab. Some other organization may be on something else. So you have to look into it, and you should know those things as well. So yeah.
All right. So can you give a brief about what are the differences between GitHub, GitLab, Mercurial, SVN, etc.?
Yeah. I'll be giving it. So as you can see, I've shared this link screen. Sorry. So this is LLVM project. This is a LLVM compiler. So they have made a mirror repository on GitHub. This is not the original code of LLVM. They use SVN actually, which is not a Git, not a Mercurial. They have just made a mirror repository. If you are thinking that maybe I should go here and contribute to it, and let me create a pull request here. So nobody would entertain your pull request from this side, because they actually are using something else for their contribution. So they are using something like Fabricator. So this thing you have to work with it. Reviews. Sorry. So you have to go to the Fabricator, and you have to get familiar with it and how to create a pull request. And talking about the other platforms, so GitHub, I think majority of the people know GitHub. So it works on the Git. It is a version control system. GitLab is also a system which works on Git, and it is also version control system. But Mercurial is something different. It is similar to Git, but it is having some different commands. So for example, if you add git clone dash dash, so we use hg clone the link. So the commands change here, and the things which works on GitHub, Git also changes here in Mercurial. So you have to look about it and how you can work in that thing. You have to think about that as well. So how to submit a patch, they have already shown here. So you shouldn't go to GitHub directly. You should go into the docs first.
All right. Sagar sir has something to say.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
Pratik, glad you mentioned about GitHub and GitLab, different platforms for each organization. So instead of that, once you finalize organization or once you shortlist organization, you should go to the contribute.md file. So you'll get to know about how to create your PR or how to create your new issues. Each organization has their own rules for the PRs and issues, and that should be first point you should start from. So for my organization, we maintain, or most of the organizations, they have written the contributing.md file, and where you will get all the commands how to create the PR or how to create the issues, how to join the community and everything.
Mm-hmm. All right.
One more point I would like to add here. I agree with Sagar bro, but many organization doesn't use GitHub, GitLab, or any other kind of things. They generally use mailing patches. So I was in this organization RTMS. So what they do is you have to make a patch of your changes, and you have to mail them in form of mail. You have to attach your code, and what they will do is that they will take your email, and they will fix it manually. They will add that thing into the main repo manually, so they do it from their side this way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think many organization doesn't have, according to my experience, many organization doesn't have any contributing MD files. Most of them have, but you have to look for the docs if you don't get the contribution part. So for example, if I'll go to this organization RTMS, so they have open a project list, and they also have a docs part. I think there's docs. Mm, just give me one second. If anyone has a question, they can ask me at this time.
Yeah, just drop your questions in the chat box because we are on the ending phase of our session already.
Yeah, so this is the documentation of that project. So they don't have a RTMS, they don't have a actually contributing.md file. So they have mentioned that how to quick start. This is the thing, you can go through it. It depends on the organization. So this organization doesn't have any contributing.md file, so they are using this kind of documentation to get familiar with the thing. So they have directly listed the GSOC getting started. You can go through this thing, and they have mentioned what you have to do, how to install dependencies, how to install everything, and then how to submit the patches. So they have already shown how you can submit some kind of patches from your side. So this way you can go with it.
All right. So we'll end our session now. There is not much questions left. Just one question by Nikunj. He asked that nowadays .NET C# it is useful or outdated for projects and organizations.
I would say that if you get any project, related to it, I would surely suggest that you should go along with it if you know. It depends on you actually. If you find a project, you should contribute. If you don't, depends on yourself.
Okay, so I just want to ask one thing that what are the chances of getting selected if you select a particular tech stack? Like if there is a project on Node and if there is a project on, he said like .NET or C#, what are the probabilities that one person gets selected in either of them?
You should have a good amount of contributions into that org, so that you can get in the top contributors list from that org. And I would suggest that you having some experience and having communicating well with the mentors can also be a good point. Because what I saw in my organization was that many people were active before the application period. Once they submit the application, they just went inactive. So gradually they were not selected in the GSOC just because I think they went inactive. Yeah. That could be a case.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
right. So even after proposal submission, you should be very active because maybe that shows you're going to stay with the organization for longer time or not, or you are just a GSOC applicant. So make sure you're contributing very actively, irrespective of GSOC.
Yeah.
right, correct. We'll end our session now. It's more than 1.5 hours. People must be getting bored by, I guess. And for the further questions, if you have, we are always available in our Brainless community. Many people are there who are ready to help. So we'll end our session now, and we'll try to arrange more sessions when people start having doubts. And we are expecting more people from our community to get selected for GSOC in next year and just take learnings from this. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Pratik, for joining this session, taking your precious time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sagar sir,
I
for.
would be happy if many people get selected from Brainless community in the GSOC next year. If you are aiming for GSOC or other open source
Yes,
channel.
sir. Yeah. Also like to thank Sagar sir from taking his time and joining in our session, talking to the young folks about mentorship and GSOC and all. So goodbye, everyone. Have rest of the day, like work and all, your choice. So we'll be seeing each other in our next session. Until then, let's just contribute and do our own work and just try to grow uh, day by day. Okay. So that's it for the day. Goodbye.